You know, Eddie, I love being in the green room, although there's very little green. Well, we got green over here now. We used to not have green. We now got a little green. You got yours in green, like a beige wall in the background. But this is where the magic happens. We're able to have these type of conversations. Take a moment, if you will. You got a very extensive background. We'd be here the whole show if I had to read this bio. But take a moment and tell the folks, who is Eddie Turner and what are you up to these days, my man?
I'm Eddie Turner, the Leadership Accelerator. I work with leaders to accelerate performance and drive impact. And I do that through the power of executive coaching and leadership coaching, along with facilitation and professional speaking. I'm also the host. It's been a long day. I'm also the host of the Keep Leading podcast.
For folks that are tuning in for the first time and they're hearing, what can they expect, on this particular episode, this morning, this evening, this afternoon, whatever time it is for them, wherever they are in the world. We got the emotional, intelligent leader. Take a moment and give them a preview. Again, we're behind the scenes in the green room, but give them a preview, man, of what they can expect and who should really pay attention to this conversation we're about to have, my man.
We're going to talk about the emotionally intelligent leader. The reason this is important today is because everywhere we look, in the family unit, in our places of worship, academia, our corporations, and in our government, people are yearning for good leadership. And the definition of good leadership has changed over the years. Essentially, right now in the 21st century, when we're talking about great leadership, we're talking about a leader who's emotionally intelligent. They understand their emotions and the emotions of other people and how they can impact that. And that leader, because of that understanding, adjusts their behavior in a way that lifts everyone around them.
That lifts everyone around them. And, you talk about leader, you're going to talk about emotional intelligence, and can we just slow down and then we're going to speed up? Take a moment and talk about the type of conversation you're having now with folks who, during this very challenging time, the whole business has changed. Once upon a time, they may have been on stages, and we both have friends like that across this world. Now the business has changed, not so much for what they're teaching, but overnight it happened. And so what type of conversation are you having with your colleagues and even folks that you work with?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
The first thing that we're talking about is the need to take a deep breath. And take a deep breath and realize we need to do a full reset. We need to reset and recalibrate. No longer can we look back in the rearview mirror and talk about we can't wait to get back to February, get back to what we had the first week in March. No, that's gone. The conversations we're having is, what will be the new normal? And to get to the new normal, there's a transformation that's going to be required of our society. As speakers, as coaches, we are prime position to lead the charge. We have our first responders on the medical lines, our doctors, our nurses, the folks who are keeping the hospitals clean, those people working in the grocery stores during this pandemic. We have all those folks who are our heroes and sheroes, as Lenora Billings Harris said. But we can support them uniquely by providing the services that we provide as thought leaders and as people who inspire through the art of the spoken word, and as those who coach people through crisis and take them to the next best level of themselves.
The next best level of themselves. One more question. I love just kind of hanging out here. Folks are eavesdropping down on the conversation. We welcome all of those that are aboard right now. What do you say to the entrepreneur who's a leader, business owner? Talking to a good friend of mine that recently had to let go someone who would work with them as his assistant for 6 years because he said, Shay, I just can't float this for 45 days. He was heartbroken. I think he took it a lot harder than she took it. And then I had another colleague that works over at the hotel and had to let 32 people, they're furloughed, but he had to give them the word. We're going to get into the emotional intelligent leader, and I don't even know what that's all about. That's your thing. But I'm just curious, what do you say to people like that have to make the call to a vendor and say, I can't make the payment? And it's very challenging. Although things are going to get better, but they're there now. What would your message be? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, man. I know you're cool. You're able to hang out. But I'm just curious, what words are you sharing with them that can help them during this time?
I'm sharing one word: pivot. It's important to pivot. This morning, I said this has been a long day. I started this morning in Africa. I had the privilege of being one of the speakers who spoke in Nigeria as a part of the Got Global Leadership Conference. And there were two keynoters who came before me. Number one was Dr. George Fraser. Number two was Michael V. Roberts. Now, I'm embarrassed to admit I'd never heard of Michael V. Roberts. But Michael V. Roberts started talking, and he said that he was coming from one of his hotels. And I said, wow, that's pretty impressive. He owns a hotel, and he starts to tell a couple of things about what he's done to pivot during this time. He didn't use the word pivot, but he talked about the fact that sitting in his hotel, he realizes he can't rent it out anymore as a hotel. So he is going to convert it to a regular residential property, right? So to turn it into something that generates wealth. I later on learned he's one of the few black billionaires in the world. Yeah. That he brothers are self-made billionaires. And the fact that he's used to pivoting because as an entrepreneur, he's used to starting businesses. He's bought and sold, I lost the number, but he's bought and sold numerous businesses. So I've been saying to people they should pivot before listening to him today. Now I'm going to say it even more. And he's just a prime example of that. Another reason I've been telling people to pivot is we think about what took place, what the last crisis produced. In 2008, the financial crisis that hit the world, we didn't know words like Uber that have become a verb now. We hadn't heard of Airbnb. But that's what was produced after the last economic crisis. So that's an indicator of what we have now. Already we see people having an entrepreneurial spirit, trying to meet the needs of customers. The customers have not gone away, but the businesses have in many cases. So, but customers, I live in the state of Texas. Texas is one of the 30 states that have reopened. Well, just because the state's open for business, what a lot of merchants are seeing is people haven't returned to the stores, to the restaurants. Some have, but not in the same numbers. But guess what? They still need services. They still need products. So there's a growing industry of people who are responding to service people and to meet people where they are today, not where they were. And to also, as Wayne Gretzky would say, go to where the puck is going, not where it's been.
We're hanging out here. We're going to transition if we can because we've got a show to go. But I want to transition right now into a very important segment, which we call an expert segment, right? And you've taken so much time. I appreciate that to break it down. For those folks that are listening, they're like, okay, Shay, he keeps throwing out emotional intelligent leader. I heard of emotional intelligence 2.0, and I've heard of this, but let's get his view of the world, Shay. Just be quiet, step back, and let him say, here's what the definition is, and here's how it applies to an entrepreneur today going through these uncertain times. So can you, one, define what is, an LL Cool J, I should say, is emotional intelligence, and two, give the bridge over to entrepreneurs today.
Sure. So, Shay, you're a very intelligent guy. You're very accomplished. And there's no question that you are a brilliant man. You have a high IQ. That's how we would measure how intelligent you are in the past, right? Intellectual intelligence quotient is what it stands for. So when somebody says you have a high IQ, that's a compliment. They're saying you're smart.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a number. We can measure that. Well, our IQ gets set somewhere around the ages of 17 or 18. And for years, we could really see that, yeah, somebody is intelligent, but for some reason, people still avoid that person, despite how intelligent they are. Sometimes even we see a situation where the smartest person wasn't getting the promotion. And that's because nobody cares how smart you are if you have an unpleasant personality or if you lack poor communication skills. And I used to just refer to that as soft skills. But I learned that there was a more formal word for it, and that is emotional intelligence. It's something that was discovered in 1940-ish, but it was made popular in 1995 by Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman wrote a landmark article in the Harvard Business Review, and that is what really reintroduced this phrase to the world. And so he made it popular, though he's not the father of the concept. So for the first time, there was a measurement that can be assigned to how emotionally intelligent you are. So rather than IQ, it's EQ. Now, why does this matter to entrepreneurs? Why does this matter to people in business? Well, your EQ has a high level of degree of, there's a high correlation between the level of your EQ and your success in business. It can be as little as 25% and as much as 48%, according to the statistics produced by Multi Health Systems, MHS. And they produce one of the instrument that I use to measure EQ in my clients. So emotional intelligence, it's not just a fad of the day. It is something that is now even being taught in schools to grade school students.
So if the person is listening right now and they're thinking, okay, emotional, intelligent leader, I got it. What is one or two or three characteristics maybe that emotional, intelligent leader would have? I think I read and I heard somewhere what one of the highest testers with emotional intelligence was number 44, President Barack Obama, a two-time president. And I'm thinking, whoa, wow, if he's got one of the highest scores that exist out there, what characteristics do we take away? And I make that point to ask the question, what are some of the characteristics of an emotional, intelligent leader? So we can kind of frame the conversation.
Well, there's a couple tools I use. I'll tell you one of them is, number one, a person who has a high EQ, they are very self-aware. Sometimes we'll look at an individual and we'll say, this person doesn't have a clue. They have no idea how they're coming across to other people. They have no idea that they are just abrasive. Well, a person who has a high EQ, they know how they're coming across to other people. They understand the impact, but also they know how to read people. A self-aware person also knows what their deficiencies are, and they don't try to cover them per se. They take steps to improve, to get better. They're not complacent. And that's one of the things that we've seen very clearly with President Obama. He's in the news here lately because of some of the things that he's been doing. And a lot of people, sometimes my wife and I watched Becoming with Michelle Obama's story this weekend. And you just kind of look at it, and you look at who they are as people. They both have high levels of emotional intelligence. They relate to people. They come across to people well. Even people who may not agree with the political ideology don't deny that these were good people.
Yeah, very, very good people. You one of the trademarks you have out there is called the Leadership Accelerator, and take a moment if you can and talk about what is it and who's it for. I mean that was like, it was like right on the front page of your website, I believe. And that grabbed my attention. I was like, okay, I hear the Profit Accelerator, the Revenue Accelerator, but now the first time I've been introduced to the Leadership Accelerator. Talk about that.
So when I opened, I said I work with leaders to accelerate performance and drive impact. Well, accelerating, of course, is to go faster. But I use accelerate as a play on the word accelerate, to go fast, but excel, meaning to go higher. So the same time you're going fast, you're also going higher to the next level, like an airplane taking off at the airport. And that's the goal that I have with every leader that I work with. It's not just a matter of going fast, because sometimes we go fast and we do damage. But when we go fast and it's at a controlled rate, we can actually get liftoff. And that's what I want to do with every leader that I work with. Accelerate their growth.
And then as the leader accelerates his growth, and I know you teach this in your workshops, how do they kind of help the rest of the organization accelerate with them as well? What is maybe one or two ideas that you could pass along to folks that are watching right now?
Good question. So the Leadership Accelerator is my trade name, but it's also my trade program. So I have a whole program for organizations that want to help their leaders accelerate. And so that program consists of a combination of motivational speaking to the organization. But oftentimes when we give a speech, it's like a great shower. It's refreshing, but then people dry off, right? So when we give a great speech, they enjoyed it, but then they go back to work and they have difficulty sometimes implementing what we've discussed. And so I give the speech, and after the speech, the package includes targeted one-on-one coaching to specific individuals in the organization. The package also includes some group coaching sessions or team coaching sessions for larger audiences than the one-on-one. The one-on-one is typically for the senior level executives. And then there are workshops that aren't necessarily coaching, but this is where I get more specific into teaching concepts that were a part of the acceleration package.
I like it. You know, one of the things that I admire is you wrote a book, 140 Simple Messages. I hope it's 140. I didn't write down. I think it's 140. Is that right?
It is 140.
Okay. Now, here's why this is important. For those folks that are listening out there, Earl, man, I see you. I see so many folks that are tuning in right now. He wrote this book, bestseller, 140 Simple Messages. And I was thinking at first, maybe that's what the topic is going to be. But it was for emerging leaders. So I said to myself, he might have one or two of his favorite simple messages out of 140, which is very hard to do. So take a moment if you can and kind of frame, who the book is for, and maybe one or two of the simple messages that are in that book that you can share with us. And this all relates back to us because these are for emerging leaders. And, I think I'm always emerging, so I'm always curious. I'm always a student, but it's going to help us, and then we'll tie it back to emotional, intelligent leader.
Yes. So that's actually a good question. So I released that book. It's going to be 2 years now. Time's getting away from me. But I released that book 2 years ago. And the thought was I work with a lot of emerging leaders as well as senior leaders. Mm-hmm. And also as a speaker, I quote people all the time. I'm quoting my parents. My father's gone, but if you knew how much I'm quoting him now.
I know that feeling.
Right. So I'm quoting him now. He's showing up in my speeches and everything I do. My grandparents and people who've made an impact on me, my early grade school teachers, just every aspect of my life, there's someone who made an impact on me. And I'm quoting them all the time. And it helped me as a leader. So I thought, well, what if I were to put this into a book format for people who are emerging to be able to have quick reference to these? So senior leaders, I don't expect them to learn anything new from the book, except for one thing. I'll get into that in a second. But I said I would put together something that was 140 messages, because people won't read a scholarly book, but they will read a tweet. So 140 was the original text string length restriction on Twitter. As I was finishing the book, they bumped it to 280.
The challenge was on, man. The challenge. That's like part two.
So some of the messages, I was able to bump up the messages, but I didn't change the book title. So it's 140 simple messages, and it's written in a journal format, so people can write in there. And a lot of times I do a public workshop, they actually do write in their book. We compare. We turn that into part of the delivery. And I love when folks have annotated in the book and written which messages matter to them. They tweet them to me or they send them to me. It's always something that's very meaningful. The other thing that I think senior leaders benefit from in the book is when I decided I was going to write it, I was like, well, what is an emerging leader? Most people only think of one group. HR people call them hypos, high potentials. But I started to do a little bit of I won't say a mini research, where I interviewed people to understand what's your reaction to this phrase. And based on that, I came up with 8 different categories. And now that I've been speaking on that for about a year or so, as a result, it's given birth to what the new book will be. Because I came up with 8 categories of what an emerging leader is. And you basically reference what the last category is. After I went through what the 8 categories are, at the end I say, but every single one of us is an emerging leader or should be emerging as a leader. In other words, it never ends. Now, when I put that in the book 2 years ago, I didn't, of course, none of us knew this crisis would hit. And it is true. We are having to emerge as new leaders. We cannot lead the way we were leading in February. One of the biggest conversations I'm having with people, one of the biggest workshops I'm delivering right now is how do you lead virtual teams? How do you lead on Zoom or whatever virtual platform you're using, WebEx and all the other ones that are out there? How do you lead now? So leaders are finding themselves having to emerge in a new way. Also, unfortunately, some jobs are going away. One of the categories I talked about is how people emerge as a leader when they've gotten a promotion. You cannot approach the new job the way you did the old job. People who do that find that they are not performing up to expectations. People say, wow, they were outstanding in this role. Now they're in this role, right? It's a problem. Marshall Goldsmith wrote the book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And it's a problem because people fail to emerge all over. And even for CEOs, the average length is 3 years that they have the job. So even if you hit the top job in an organization, you still have to keep emerging because your competition is getting better and your tenure is not guaranteed. So you've got to keep emerging in the new role, and it has to be a continual process.
You know, for those folks that are out there listening right now, you have my permission, and I'm sure that you have Eddie Turner's permission to pay this message forward, okay? Eddie showed up, and he didn't ask for a Cash App payment before he got started. He didn't ask for a Zelly payment. He said, Shay, I'm here to serve. Hit the share button. Hit the share button. And when you hit that share button, go ahead and write those words. Emerging leaders show up. Hashtag Eddie Turner. Just put emerging leaders show up. Hashtag Eddie Turner. Hit the share button. Hit the watch button right now. That's a digital applause. And why you do that, maybe the message is not for you, and that's okay. But there's another emerging leader. There's another entrepreneur. There's another business owner. There's someone else that's in charge of their family and they're a leader of their family, or there's someone else right now that's working in corporate America or working in the government or working for a nonprofit. And this message is just exactly what they need. And Eddie could be the exact person they need to help move them forward. Eddie, for some folks listening right now, they might be wondering, we only have so much time, obviously, but they may not know a little bit about your journey to how you got to teaching and speaking on stages and leading organizations to help them have their leaders move forward. Do you mind taking a moment and tell me a little bit about, I know we were in the green room, you're like, who is Eddie? And then the journey that got you to where you are now, man.
Sure. So I spent 20 years in information technology. And I was an IT geek, and I'm still a geek at heart. And I pause because I always think I go back to my dad. My dad taught me to be multi-talented and multi-skilled because he worked in steel mills. My parents never went to college, and so they didn't have a chance to get a degree, and neither did their parents. And so rather than go get a degree, I went and got a skill. So I went and learned how to build and troubleshoot and repair computers. My father always said, don't learn how to work a computer, learn how to build one. And so that's what I did. And he would always get laid off in the mills. And he finally went and learned how to build and repair air conditioners and refrigerators. And that's how he took care of our family after a number of layoffs in those mills in Northwest Indiana. And so I said, if I learn how to build computers, I'll always have work. And so I did, and I had a great career in IT. I worked for great corporations, and I always landed in the C-suite. And I had no idea. I took my first job at 19 years old in corporate America. And I remember being in the C-suite, being on a corporate jet, all those things. And I now look back and say the first 20 years was a setup for the next 20. I have always been a trusted advisor to senior leaders, but it was always around IT, what they should do with IT, information technology. But now I advise leaders on leadership. And so I've seen the best lead the best. And I bring that forward into the career I have now, where I decided I didn't want to help them work on computers anymore and fix their computers. I wanted to start helping leaders fix themselves.
Fix themselves. And what is the biggest challenge facing leaders today? Just based on your own opinion, based on all the knowledge you have, what's one of the biggest challenges facing leaders today?
COVID-19.
All right, let me reframe the question. For those folks that are entrepreneurs right now, COVID-19 is the biggest challenge. I agree. But as a leader themselves personally, what holds leaders back from taking it to the next level? I get it. It's kind of like health, right? No one works out until the doctor says, you must do this, or I get it. And so COVID-19 certainly, and it's not going to make fun of it, obviously. I mean, I've lost family to it. I know people have been impacted, so it's very, very serious. I do understand that. So the question kind of is, what's holding us back as leaders from getting better just as leaders? Although we say we want to.
Complacency. People get complacent. You have a business, it's working, it's successful, and people say if it's not broke, why fix it? I saw a bumper sticker one time that said the worst phrase in the English language is, we've always done it better. My role in organizations has always been that I've gone in, this is in my IT world, and this is still my thinking now, even more so. You need to get ahead of the curve. That's what my dad always taught me. And so that's all I've ever known. And so I've been a disruptor. And it's always, in some ways, in corporations, it was frowned on, but then people understood later on. And I piloted new and emerging technologies that set organizations up for what was next. And so the same thing I say to entrepreneurs and business owners. If you have something that's working, great. It's already old. Start working on what's next. Don't wait for disruption to come and you have to be forced to do it. When I went into the oil industry, people would challenge me and say, why are you trying to do this? We don't need it. And because of my previous success, I was able to get things done. And that organization, the last organization I left, they're thriving right now because of what I put in place. But organizations that I know of, and some of my colleagues we talk about, they resisted using technology. They resisted work from home, for example. The CEO of, I won't say which company, but CEO of major companies, he says within 72 hours, we had everybody at home working. I know another major government institution, within 48 hours, they had everybody at home working when this crisis hit. And one person said to me, she said, it would have taken my HR department 10 years to approve this. And that's the truth. I know, because I used to fight those battles internally. There was no reason in some cases, in many cases, quite frankly, to keep the status quo. But this forced people to do what they kept saying couldn't be done and shouldn't be done. And now, you know what the clients are saying? I have a client right now that says, well, we won't be welcoming you all back, the external providers of service. They said, we've learned that we can actually work from home. We've learned it actually works.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for them as a client, but it kind of stinks for me as a provider, right? So they won't necessarily need us to come on site anymore to do services. But I'm excited that they are ready for the next generation. And so that's the biggest thing I see. People getting complacent and not wanting to change until it's forced on them. We have to really be prepared that as soon as we we have something that's working, rip it up and get started with what's next, because our competition is already doing it. The thing that disintermediates us is coming from the competition, because they're already working on what the new and improved version is going to be.
I love it. You know, one of our core beliefs here is a mantra that's called "Today is my January 1st." And today is my January 1st. For those folks that know the segment and you're a regular, you can go ahead and look right below the video. You can write, "Today is my January 1st." Go ahead and write that right now. For those folks that are hearing it for the first time and say, Shay, what is he saying? What is he saying? Today is my January 1st represents one of those moments throughout the day, and it's probably 1,000+ moments, where you can make a decision, and that decision could forever change the trajectory of your life, right? So you either make a decision right now that you're going to work out during this time because you can't go anywhere, or you're going to sit back on the couch and binge watch and watch Netflix. You make a decision that you're going to eat, I don't know, hamburgers and French fries, and got to have some salt and pepper, right? A little ketchup is always good. Or you're going to go to the refrigerator. You're going to open it up, and inside will be some spinach. I'll have some of that. Inside will be some broccoli. I'll have some of that. Or maybe some Brussels sprouts. That sounds good. And so today is my January 1st represents a do-over, a fresh start. It doesn't matter the calendar. You make it happen for yourself. My question to you, Eddie Turner, is when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? What does it mean to you?
It's a new start. People often make resolutions on January 1st. And sometimes we find ourselves a month in, realize we haven't lived up to our resolutions. I think a lot of people are going to be making some new resolutions this January 1st and sticking to them. Our parents always taught us to put away a little money for a rainy day. But we didn't know we needed to really put it away for a rainy year because we're in for a long ride right now, right? So I think in January 1st, many of us will start to reassess where we are in terms of our finances. We will start to reassess where we are in terms of our goal accomplishment. Right now, we've had a time to kind of catch our breaths, reflect. What are we doing with this time? And where will we be on January 1? So January 1 represents a significant start for a lot of us. And I think now, more than ever, the start that we need for the big pivot for where we're going to be when we're on the other side of this crisis that we're in right now.
The other side of the crisis. I love those words, by the way. There are folks out there that are writing, today is my January 1st. They're feeling good. They're excited, just like they were back on December 31st, after a couple of drinks, by the way, on the back of a napkin. They started writing down their New Year's resolutions. You probably heard this before. I know it's an old saying, but sometimes there's truism in old sayings, and that is consistency is the key. Consistency is the key. Consistency is the key. And having said that, what do most people struggle with? My hand is raised, by the way. Consistency. So my question to you is, what do you share with your clients in order for them to be consistent? Or as my good friend Dr. George Frazier would say, hashtag, that's the remix version, stay the course.
There's two things I say on that. Number one, there's nothing that is as consistent as change. So I'll go back to my earlier message. Be consistently changing. Don't get complacent. Don't get comfortable. Maintain a sense of urgency. The other thing I say about consistency is consistency only works when we're doing something right. If I am consistently practicing the wrong swing in golf, it just makes me a worse golf player. It doesn't make me better. So consistency must be married to proper application. Consistency must also be married to thoughtful reflection. And that's the message that I take to my clients.
I love that. You know, as we go into the coming down the home stretch and we go into the rapid fire segment, there are folks out there that might be saying, you know what, I love what I'm hearing, Shay. I want to stay in contact. I mean, I want to stay in the conversation. Yes, he does have Keep Leading podcasts. Yes, he does train organizations. Yes, by the way, he does do it virtually, by the way. Yes, he does speak on stages, and he does amazing things. Take a moment if you can, and a two-part question. Question number one is, what type of clients do you work with, right? What type of clients or organizations do you work with? And as he's saying that, I want you to listen. Maybe it's right for you. You're like, oh, wow. Because question number two is going to be, how do you contact him? How do you stay in the conversation? Or maybe you're like, it's not for me, but I know someone. And so you can do two things. You can hit the share button so they can hear the message. Hit the share button right now and put emerging leaders show up. I love that, by the way. Hashtag Eddie Turner. Or you can just send the information he's going to provide you to someone. Say, hey, look, check this guy out. He's worth a conversation. All right, I'll turn it over to you, man. Two-part question. Number one, who do you work with so we can have some idea? And number two, how can they best contact you or your office?
So I work with leaders. So either you are a leader in the formal sense that you have a job title that says you're a leader, or you are an emerging leader, someone who wants to become a leader, who wants to get that job title, or you're already a leader and you're stuck in a rut, no matter what level you're at. I work with leaders to accelerate their performance and get to the next level. I work with people, for example, at Rice University, emerging leaders who are as young as 18 years old, who come to America for the first time, and all the way through the PhD level of the program. But then I'll go to the biggest cancer center in the world, and I'll work with the senior executives there. So I work with leaders to access my thoughts on what leadership is. As Shay said, the keepleadingpodcast.com or Keep Leading Live, the live stream, keepleadinglive.com. And both of those are found simply at askeddieturner.com.
Say it, give them the site one more time. So, and someone do me a favor. As you're watching, look right below the video. And he's going to give you the website. I think he said www. Was it www? What's the site? Everyone
Sorry, I said it too fast. AskEddieTurner.com. Eddie is EDDIE. I should probably explain that because some people spell it the other way. So AskEddieTurner.com. EDDIETURNER.com.
Okay, so let's all make sure the website works. He's a tech guy. He understands it. Sometimes these websites don't work. Nothing personal. Things happen. We understand that. So you open up a browser. Type in AskEddieTurner.com. He's nervous. Does it work? He knows it. He's probably like, oh my gosh. But I've got confirmation, Bob. We've got confirmation. The site does work. So for those folks that are over at your site, man, you got some cool stuff going on your site. You had recent podcasts. You can't have this on the front page and not take a minute or two and tell us what is the mission of keep leading. What is the mission and what type of folks should tune in? I mean, it's right smack in the middle. Oh, there's the book. Did he ever give us an idea of the book? Yeah, he did give us an idea. Okay. Talk about the podcast, man. Who's this podcast for?
This is for anybody who loves leadership. I believe that leadership is a continuous activity. When I decided to leave IT, one of the things I did is I went back and got a degree. I didn't have a degree at first. I went to Northwestern and got a degree. Later on, I went to Harvard, studied leadership under one of the preeminent authorities on leadership. And so one of the things that I fundamentally believe is it's a continual process, as we were talking about earlier, consistency, right? So my thing is keep leading. Don't stop. We never get to a point where, okay, I'm a leader, I'm done. The premise of the show is how can you keep leading? And so I brought on some of the top thought leaders, coaches, CEOs in the world on the show. You saw the photo there with Marshall Goldsmith, the world's #1 coach and the #1 thought leader. And Haben Girma, for example, the deaf-blind woman who conquered Harvard Law School. We've heard of hidden figures. I had on one of the hidden figures who we never hear about. Father John. He died 6 weeks after we filmed that episode. He had never been on a podcast. He'd never heard of a podcast, but he let me interview him, and he is a man who we never heard about. And the last passenger on the Miracle on the Hudson flight, interviewed him. So just tons of people have been on the show, but each of them talking about an aspect of leadership so that we can keep leading.
Well, we're going to put you on the spot. Well, you can be on the spot. He has his own show. He can be on the spot. What's one idea you learned from any of them? I mean, you can pick one. You had so many great folks, but we only have so much time. But just say, hey, Shay, this is one idea I learned from one of the folks that were on my podcast. I'm going to take that idea right now, and I'm going to share it. And those folks, you want to know where we are. The website works. We've confirmed this. We're looking at it now, and obviously while you were talking. The website is www.askeddieturner.com, and that'll take you right to the site right here. So give us one idea, man, that you've learned from any one of your guests.
I'll go back to Haben Girma. Haben is deaf and blind. And so I had to think, wow, how am I going to do this interview, right? But she's amazing, so I really want to interview her. And the first thing Haben says to me is, Eddie, I can't access your show. Wow. She says, I can't access your show because you haven't made it accessible to people with disabilities. And so I said, well, how do I fix that? She says, you have to have a transcript. So she was episode 14, I believe, of my show. And so Haben helped me to understand that people with disabilities are the largest minority group in the world. Here I am thinking I understand diversity and inclusion, and I'm thinking I'm really with it, and I was not. So she set me straight. And so I did what was just the right thing, and it turns out that by adding the transcript, I added it on her episode, it was the very first one, went back and did the 13 prior, and now today, up to 70 episodes, every episode has a transcript because of Haben Girma. I never would have added a transcript. Now, I didn't think that was the right thing, it was the human thing. Turns out it was a great business thing as well. When you make it more accessible, you get access to more people from the community of those with disabilities, and it did wonders for my SEO in allowing the show to be found. So I just did what was the right thing because of what she taught me, and it's been the best thing for me.
Wow. Thanks so much for sharing, man. Certainly, I appreciate that. I know along your journey, you probably had so many affirmations, so many beliefs that you hold. You talk about, you quote a number of folks. I don't know if I mentioned this to you. I might have earlier that one of the missions we're on is we have some core values as well here at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. And one of the things that we've been doing, I think I may have mentioned to you, is we have something called the Happy Entrepreneur Manifesto. It's our big give back to the world, some of our core beliefs that we hold near and dear to us. And it's free. There's no upsell or downsell. This is just something that I want to put in front of 10 million business owners over the next 10 years to really help them during this time. Now, why do I bring this up, and how does this relate to what we're talking about, and why is that important? Well, everyone has core values, right? Everyone has core values, and this is something that you can have. And one of the things on the right-hand side said, I believe spending quality time with family is non-negotiable. And who doesn't believe that? But just 2 weeks ago, one of the ladies called and she let me know that that was a good reminder for her. It was inside her email because she had asked for it a couple months ago. She was home and been spending so many hours working from home, being a mom, being a school teacher, taking care of the kids, being a school administrator, cooking. She says, you know what, Shay? I lost track of that. That made me grounded. Of course, I always put, I believe automation is the key to reclaiming my time, because I believe there is a 25th hour, and that 25th hour is technology. That you do have more than 1,440 minutes every day when you add automation. The question I have for Eddie on the other side is, one of our core beliefs is the results that show up in your life are just as important as the results that show up in your bank account. I'll say that again. The results that show up in your life are just as important as the results that show up in your bank account. Once you take a moment and talk about the importance of, don't chase the money, just add value, and the money will chase you, right? So let's talk about the importance of making sure your life is in order as well as a leader, not just focusing on what's happening at the office. For those folks that are out there like, Shay, I want the manifesto, no cost, love it, love what I'm hearing, I share these core values, I want to get it and I'm willing to pay it forward. You could just text the word manifesto, no cost, no charge, no catch. You would open up your cell phone, and where you would type in emoji, just put manifesto for those folks that are listening to the podcast. And then in the number area, you put 202-999-3515. So you're going to text the word manifesto to 202-999-3515. Once you do that, you'll get a text message immediately. Just click the link, download it, and just let me know which one resonated with you. Let me know which one really touched you, and then pay it forward. Take that and just forward it to someone else. We believe in the giver's economy. The person that outgives the competition out-earns the competition. So Eddie, my question to you is, when you hear those words, the results that show up in your life are just as important as the results that show up in your bank account. What does that mean to you? Why is that important?
It's important because we are more than our bank accounts. We can't take our bank account with us. And if nothing proved it to us before, certainly COVID is. If you were to ask anybody right now, would you rather be healthy or wealthy? Wealthy is not the choice they would pick, probably. I think many people would pick healthy. Some people, I was told once when I was young, that an older gentleman said, when I was younger, he said, I spent my health earning my wealth. And now that I'm older, I'm spending my wealth to regain my health. Yeah. So yeah, it's what we have left behind. It's the relationships that we have established with our family members. Nothing sadder than seeing someone leave this earth and nobody's at your funeral, or they're only there to see what they can get. They don't really care about you. So what relationships did you build? What, if you have wealth and great things, what did you do with it? What monuments were built that you erect? What institutions did you build? Did you support the community? What did you give back? That's what the real riches are. And certainly, if we are people of faith, what rewards we have in heaven that can't be spent and no one can take from us.
Man, so powerful. We're coming down the home stretch. We're just about done. I'm just curious, why does Eddie Turner do this, man? Why do you still show up on these type of shows? Why do you continue to give the best knowledge that you have? You could say, hey, Shay, you got to write me a check for this right now. But no, you said, Shay, I'm here, and you're serving, and you're giving the best as if you were just starting the day. So why does Eddie Turner still do this stuff, man?
I love people. I absolutely love people. And I love spreading the message about why it's important to be a good leader. The world needs great leaders right now. So when we talk about being an emotionally intelligent leader, we're talking about being a leader of the 21st century. That's what people need right now. The leaders that we love and adore. You talk about President Obama. the leaders we don't forget in our public life and in our private life. And we all think about that grade school teacher or that teacher in college who saw something in us, who helped us, who gave us a kind word, whatever it was. It's always that person who was emotionally intelligent. It wasn't always the smartest person. It was the one who cared. And as one gentleman told me, he said, people don't care about how smart you are until they know how much you care.
Wow. Well, let me first say thank you so much, man, for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the one and only Deborah Gardner, by the way, who certainly connected us together. She's just an amazing, incredible human being out of Phoenix, Arizona, one of the nicest folks. She kept saying Shay, NSA, National Speakers Association. I didn't really know what it really was. I'd heard about it, but I didn't really know. But I've met so many cool people, and you're one of them. And it's because she has a heart to give. She has a heart to serve. And because of her, we're now having this conversation. She's out there watching. That's just what Deborah Gardner does, always behind the scenes. But I would like to first again say thank you. For those folks that are watching, I'm going to ask him if he'll have his final thoughts.
So thank you for having me.
You're welcome, man. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to you to have your final thoughts in just a moment to kind of close us out. I know you said you would do that, give your final thoughts for the audience to empower, to inspire them when these lights go off. For those folks that are out there that are watching, and maybe you just tuned in, here's how you can give Eddie Turner a digital applause. A digital applause. One of the ways to do that is just to go ahead. No, I'm not going to give you a Cash App thing to do. No, I want you to pay the message forward. I want you to share it with your network. Look, it's okay. You can share it into your Facebook private group. You can share it into your LinkedIn group. You can share it to someone else so they can hear this message a second or third time. And when you share it, just put up there, AskEddieTurner.com. Just put that in. Just put AskEddieTurner.com. If they want to ask him a question, he said you can go to the website, fill it out, and ask a question. Find out more about him. I want to encourage you to do that. Make sure you hit the like button as well. Stay connected with us. We're looking forward to serving you more. All right, Eddie, I'm going to turn it over to you, man, to close us out, man. Give us your final thoughts as we get ready to these fiber optic lines, they will go away since you're a techie at some point. The lights will be off, and we got to go to work, man. So go ahead and give us your final thoughts.
Oh, thank you for having me. I don't get a chance to sit on this side often. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. You're a fantastic host.
Thank you. All right. So with that being said, for everyone that's out there, I want you to know that you're amazing. You're incredible. I want you to know that today is your January 1st. You are an emerging leader. You can do this thing. Today is your January 1st. You can go out there right now and you can use your emotional intelligence to not only be grounded, but to serve more people. And today is your January 1st. The best is still yet to come. The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. With that being said, my name, for those folks who are curious who's doing all that screaming, my name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And I promise you from the bottom of my heart, well, we'll make some good things happen. We connect again next time. Remember, time is long. Life is short. Live in the moment and make it count. Peace. We out. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Talk to you guys later. It's always so much fun. Promise I made to my mom. I only did this message for one person, and that's my mom. This is for you, Mom. Love you. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. Woo-hoo! Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, check. Shay Brown.
Mic check, mic check.
All I do is win, no matter what. Man. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
Yes. Yeah.
And they stay there. And they stay there, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win. Yeah.
Thank you, God bless.